And folks, that is what we call a saving throw. Anywho, welcome to Hitting the Mark with Harry and Mark. I'm your co-host, Mark, and this is your co-host, Harry.
Hello.
We're two idiots who definitely like to talk about things we have no idea what we think we know. What we know we think? I don't know. We know what we're talking about. We just don't know what it is we're talking about, or vice versa. I don't know. I don't. I'm an idiot. I don't know the English language anyway, so I don't know why I'm even speaking in it. Hola, bonjour, comment ça va? Um, we hope you're doing well, folks. We hope you're safe. Harry, I hope you're safe. I really do.
I am.
Good, good, good. Did you know the bear population in the Canadian Rockies is actually decreased? I know. Just be careful there, bear.
I
Best be
will.
careful. Anyway, folks, enough about endangered bears because we wanted to talk to you firstly about a really important thing that's actually coming out. Uh, the Senate is debating, has pushed through on the vote to debate um, the stimulus COVID relief bill. This is important, which means it's passed through the House of Representatives and it's been approved for debate on the floor of the Senate. Once that's approved, it goes back to the. I keep wanting to say Congress. I'm a fucking idiot. It keep it
Mm-hmm,
politics
mm-hmm.
statecraft. Um, Once it's approved in the Senate, it goes back to the House for another vote and then back to the president to be ratified. So let's hope that gets put through. Remember, folks, we're disappointed that there isn't $600 in there, but we need to realize that there are a lot of provisions in there that do help medium income families,
Mm-hmm.
adult dependents, vets, the elderly. There are a lot of support provisions in there that are helping people. Um, I would still have $2,000 and the provisions, but this is still good. Okay. Don't stop being mad. Just reallocate how and where you're mad. Second thing that I want to talk about, just get out of the way really quickly, was the Equality Act. Thank you, Harry,
Mm-hmm.
for telling me that,
Yep. Gotcha.
preventing me from embarrassing myself in my brain fart. It's the the Democratic voting rights bill. It's been approved in the House of Representatives, and it's going to be going to the Senate. It's the tricky part.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the reason I bring this up mainly is just for the comedy of kind of hearing like mask off idiots kind of going against the bill.
Mm-hmm.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, I don't know if we've discussed her, the congresswoman who talks about Jewish space lasers
Not on
and
podcast, I believe.
harasses. Right, right, right. So like essentially Grouch, but if Grouch was like someone you didn't want to root for.
Right.
Um she's basically a QAnon Kool-Aid drinking Congress human. She's harassed the Sandy Hook shooting victims, just all of kind of the lowly shit that you can think of, and now she's a congressperson. And there's a great video of her getting um, interviewed by Caitlin Bennett. Caitlin Bennett is a uh, God, I don't want to say agitator because it makes me sound like a conservative in the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, all she does is she goes to people campuses and she like asks them stupid questions that obviously piss people off. And when they get pissed off, she raises her hands up and she's like, "Oh no, God! If this is the hospitality of leftists." Da, 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 da. Like she's kind of straw man's arguments and then like has pre-prepared arguments for people. So when she gets into arguments with people on politics, she usually has the upper hand, and then when people get pissed off, she like claims victimhood. She's a conservative, and she's awful. But besides the point, the joke is Caitlin Bennett is interviewing Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Marjorie Taylor Greene plugs in her disdain for the Equality Act. She, without even like skipping a beat, because I don't think it's like I don't think they understand irony. She's like talking to Caitlin Bennett, and she says the Equality Act is terrible. Now,
Oh,
like, I get the idea that like, oh, a bill in and of itself, just because it's named one way, I get that. Like, just because it says it's the Equality Act doesn't necessarily mean that it would be something based on equality. But like, hearing it come out of her psychotic mouth, I it just it you see the humor in this. I'm hoping you do, Harry.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, so it's like I don't know. Thank you for that. I needed that. I really did.
Gotcha.
I was in desperate need of a laugh. Um, but I don't know. I saw this video of her interviewing, and she just straight up said like, "Ah, the Equality Act is terrible. Don't vote for it." And the leftists and Marxists, and they want to destroy the country. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Anyway,
Mm,
um, let's see. So we got two of the political ones out of the way. Let's go into something legal. Yes,
all
yes,
right.
folks. We know all sorts of stuffs about legals. Okay, okay. Harry, you pull up that article. I'm gonna tell our audience of however many people and a half what's going on.
uh, okay. Go for it.
So, Bethesda, a company, a place, person? I don't know. Bethesda, the video game. Yeah, I know, it's right off the top of my head too. Bethesda Softworks, a company owned by ZeniMax, is in some legal trouble. Their Fallout 4 Michigas is finally catching up with them. They produced a game, Fallout 4. I've not heard of it. You know, one of the sequels to the one of the defining games of like the last fucking 12, 15 years. Anywho,
Mm,
uh, in it they promised like a whole bunch of DLC and shit like that, and they provided technically two substantial DLC with like two add-on packs.
mm,
Needless to say, the fan base was disappointed, angry, and all that shit. But that's not really lawsuit worthy. What was is the I believe it's the Creation Club that people are angry about, the paid modded support store. If you have the article up, please, by all means, prevent me from saying something even stupider than I have been.
um, I mean, it's. I didn't even know there was a season pass. First of all,
Hmm.
uh,
Oh, right.
yeah,
Yeah, spend a shitload of money for something that's not gonna come out.
yeah. So, obviously these people. So Fallout 4 and I guess other games of recent times have had this season pass. I mean, like I know season pass of like Call of Duty has the season pass, but it's more of like
Mhm.
you earn things as you play.
Right.
So it's like this one, I would have never understood what Fallout 4 season pass is. So apparently it's you get everything that comes to the game down the road for free as long as you pay for the season pass.
This
Um,
is
so
this
every
shit is so silly.
yeah, so every DLC, every like item that they bring into the game, whatever, everything, right? And that
Mhm.
was their premise of selling the season pass. Um, and I guess down the road, they were doing that, but I guess they did. I want to get the correct term for this because here we go. Uh, they announced the launch of the Bethesda Creation Club.
Mhm.
So it's basically everything that's in both Fallout 4 and Skyrim. So obviously new items, abilities, gameplays, or gameplay, yeah, and gameplay overall.
Mhm.
So by them and stuff. So the problem with that is that those items weren't included to the season pass that people paid for.
Bastards.
So yeah, so that was the big issue, because they advertised anything that would come in the future into Fallout 4
Would be
would
available through the season pass.
exactly, but
Mhm.
Bethesda did this thing and people caught them on it, you know.
Yeah, it seems to mark a recurrence of lawsuits. For anyone who doesn't know,
Hmm.
Bethesda Maryland is the one who developed Fallout 4, and I think Bethesda Austin or northern somewhere in northern Texas is the one who developed
Hmm.
Fallout 76. But Bethesda is on the hook also for their business practices with the Atomic Shop in Fallout 76. They were also sued as well, again in a class action lawsuit for their business practices. I believe in Australia or New Zealand,
Hmm.
because the here it's like, oh well, we advertised it this way and you just interpreted it wrong. In Australia, with their big weird seagull eating crabs,
Yes.
they're like, no, you advertised it this way. Can't tell if I'm doing a Kiwi accent or an Australia accent, but they're like,
Yeah.
no, you said this and we got that. You're full of shit, mate. So they sued. But it seems to be a sign that Bethesda is either having a really hard time with getting funds. There was an argument, or there was some information. I don't know if I can source it or not that I'd want to.
Mm.
Um, but when Microsoft was doing the purchase on Bethesda, uh, there were some articles talking about the possibility that uh, this also implies that Bethesda was probably leaking cash to begin with.
Oh.
Um, yeah, and speaking of Microsoft, this lawsuit could also make, I don't know if it's in the article or not, but could also put Microsoft on the hook, because
Oh.
the buyout has not been officiated. I know that like a couple months ago, everyone was like, "Oh, Microsoft bought Bethesda." Well, they were in the process of buying it. They've finalized the agreement, and they are in the transition to buy now,
Mm.
which further complicates the issue.
Yeah.
Um, but it goes to show that Bethesda is either, or a combination of, it was either like just hemorrhaging cash at the time, or is doing what a lot of video game companies seem to be doing now, which is transitioning less from a video game business itself to more of a consistent seasonal, like, money making business, like a
Right.
store based business. Like, the games they make seem to be less focused on the game themselves and creating an online store. uh, that, again, like I said, that's where they keep getting into trouble, is how
Hmm.
they're performing the business practices related to these stores. Atomic Shop, the inflation of a product, not to mention the absolute shit products they had on the Atomic Shop.
Mm.
um Internet Historian has a great video on that for anyone who's interested. He's a very popular YouTuber. He does some solid sized videos that document kind of like, how do you want to put it? Pop culture, but like
Mm.
internet meme kind of pop culture related archives. He does a great one on the Fallout of Fallout 76, which I recommend to anyone who would be interested in in hearing about. Yeah, it's disappointing. I don't particularly think Bethesda might have ever been the the shining developer on the hill that everyone thought it was.
Mm.
Uh, because there was some shady stuff apparently that was going on with the Fallout franchise and the Elder Scrolls franchise that was happening. And they've got a bit of a history with crunch as well.
Yeah.
Uh, but what's getting them I mean, it seems to matter a bit less now, I would hope. Um, Mainly because of Microsoft's purchasing, but I don't know if Microsoft purchasing Bethesda will create a larger demand for, like,
Mm.
crunch time or less.
I see.
Uh,
Yeah.
just because they have the influx of cash. Honestly, I would equate it to kind of like filmmakers. I don't
Yeah.
necessarily know if the comparison works, but you take someone like Denis Villeneuve, who makes consistently good movies. Does he get someone micromanaging everything that he does on the set when he makes the Dune movie? Or I don't
Mm,
know, fucking because his return on investment is pretty high. Bethesda, whether or not they're a good developer, or whether or not like them as a business model for how they create their games is less important than the fact that they just made games that people love.
correct.
So it'll be interesting to see what subtle things are changed or what subtle things you pick up in the games post Microsoft purchase, especially with what's going on with this lawsuit. And we'll try to keep you folks updated, all three and a half of you, about what's going on. Uh, I'm really bad at touching base. I know I've said a couple things like, "Oh, we're going to research this and talk about it," and then I'm like, "Uh,
Uh-huh.
I said what? I can't even read." So we'll do as best we can. We got to pad these shows somehow. So
Somehow.
yeah. Anywho, Harry, you lead the way with magic. I don't mean like Harry Potter turfy stuff. I mean the Gathering.
So this past week,
Harry.
they Wizard of the Coast had. I mean, it's already been announced. It's called Time Spiral Remastered. It's a new set. It's basically like every other master set. Um, like reprints, like basically 100% reprints. No new cards. It's just all reprints from old sets.
New art.
Um, some new art. The what's really getting everyone in this
It's gonna be
set
new art.
is new cards, like newer cards, printed with the old school borders.
Oh, as in like alpha and beta?
Um,
Like white
Basically,
ass borders?
like yeah, like old school borders, like just not yeah, 90s borders, and everyone's going crazy because there's a huge
Right? Because white borders fucking suck.
yeah.
Oh,
So
I'm kidding. So there's a
uh,
huge craze. I'm sorry.
there's a huge community of people who play older formats, so legacy, vintage, even commander, like where old school card, like older cards are legal, right? And so a lot of those cards obviously have never been reprinted or just can't be reprinted or whatever. So you just have them in older borders. So what they've done, because obviously people like the new borders and whatever, but right now what's huge is people seeing newer cards and older borders and loving it. People are people are just already planning to get sets of cards to match their other cards that are in their legacy deck or their vintage deck, or just some cards just look really good in the older borders. Um, and that's something that a lot of people are talking about.
Hmm.
Like if they want this to continue, because there's like not every single card is being printed in older border, but a lot of people want it. So not so like obviously a lot of people are kind of like bummed out that certain cards didn't make it, but the ones that did, they're really happy about. So
Yeah, of course.
that's the craze right now. The other craze that's going around with this is so time sh- so times this set is covering, I believe, Future Sight, Time Spiral, and Time Shifted, I believe. And are three sets back in early 2000, I believe.
See, I didn't even remember those. Those didn't even ring a bell
Yeah.
from what you told
so so they're older sets, right? So
me. Yes.
the thing that people were excited about is so for example, those so a future sight box is about $1,500. So if you wanted
God.
to play draft with that with booster packs with that set, you'd have to pay a lot of money. So what this set does is it lets you play with those cards, not every single one because, they're putting 3 sets into one set, but it lets you play with those cards in a booster draft, format, not paying $1,500. You pay, hopefully $110, with tax. So it's like way cheaper. And that's what people are more excited about. And the other thing that the people are excited about is what's in the future. What other sets can they do this with? A big set that everyone that has drafted it and love draft is Innistrad. Uh, a lot of people were actually bummed that they weren't
The
around to.
Avengers.
Yes, they weren't. They're bummed that they weren't around to be able to experience Innistrad draft before
Oh
you
no,
know
I'm a fucking idiot. No, edit that shit out. That's Zendikar. Never mind. Innistrad is the horror one. I
Yeah.
know what I'm talking about. Don't gatekeep me. Shit.
It's okay.
God damn it.
Um.
That's the one that introduces Arwen Cord, right? The fucking the cute ass werewolf woman.
Yes, that
I see. I know
is.
things. Yes. See.
That's the second visit to Innistrad, but everyone's talking.
Fucking damn it. Shit.
No,
Fuck.
it's still Innistrad though. It's still Innistrad.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. No. Yeah. Huh?
so the original Innistrad is what everyone talks about, and the beauty of that set is it has great cards, very expensive cards, and that goes with how expensive a box is. I think a box is about $800, uh, and I think it's
That's
only
a-
it's only ticking up. That's the thing. Eh, For
yeah.
every box that people open up to draft, the price of boxes are going to go up. So, um, if down the road, Wizards of the Coast would just say, "Hey, we're doing an Innistrad remastered," it's not just the one set. It's Innistrad, Dark Ascension, and Avacyn Restored, but it has all the cards, probably the popular cards that you want to play with, in the set. So it's like they're giving newer Magic players the opportunity to play with those cards, and I think
Yeah.
that's what
The
everyone's looking.
pool. Yeah. The pool that you get from that is pretty fucking huge too.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really that's a really large pool to get to bring in new players too.
Yeah.
Not only that, but like I would assume that helps with something like Modern too, when you get the reprints and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
available cards and keep them in circulation.
Yes, so it helps with everyone who's playing any format. Modern, Commander, Legacy, Vintage. Like, some of these cards in this new set, like, are Legacy staples. That they're newer cards, but they're played in older formats, and that's something that and uh, people are gonna be able to play with slivers again. You know, newer players are gonna find out the
God damn it.
atrocity of slivers. you know, so that's
Yeah,
gonna be
the
fun.
newer generation is gonna figure out how awful they are.
Yes,
It's like when a fucking baby boomer's like, "Ah, millennials, don't make the same mistakes we made," and we fucking make them.
yeah, basically. So yeah, Time Spiral Remastered. It's a great set. They're still spoiling cards, but every single card that's been shown has had great responses, especially the cards of the older borders. Those everyone loves. It doesn't matter what card gets printed with the old border, people love it. It just looks great. But the beauty of the cards that they're choosing, a lot of them are cards that people want, whether it's for legacy, vintage, commander, or even popper. Popper is a big format, and a lot of those cards, it's called legacy light. So it's just as long as it's a common, you can play it, right? And a lot of those cards are some of those cards are newer cards, but you play with a lot of older cards, right? So it's like, you have basically maybe 80% of your deck has the old border and the other 20% is newer, and
Mhm.
they're slowly helping you make that one deck 100% old border. So that's the beauty of it, that people are going crazy. And again, the news of like they can do this with any other set, because they've already done this on Magic Online with other sets. I think they did Time Spiral before. They did Future Sight. No, not Future Sight. Um, I forgot. They did one. They also did one for the original Alpha Beta. Uh, yeah, the original cards, the original Alpha Beta cards. They
Mhm.
did a master set for it. So it had stuff like Black Lotus, the original Dual Lands, all the Moxes. It had them. Obviously, it's Magic Online, so they're cheaper, but you were able to play with that draft format, with the original Power 9, like very powerful cards, so that's,
Just eviscerate someone in a move and a half.
yeah, exactly. So it's like,
Yeah. Cool.
so people online have already been able to experience this, but it's been kind of non-existent in paper magic for a very long time, and I think it's something that people have been talking about, but it hasn't been like in the forefront in the sense of like this is what people were asking for. It was more of like people were asking just for reprints, but it's more the sense of like cards are in paper can get very, very, very expensive, and with the whole reserve list issue, I don't want to go into that, but it just, master sets are kind of like, you can do newer cards, but older cards are kind of an issue. So it is what it
Yeah.
is, but it's exciting. It's
Getting
exciting.
into an area.
But yeah, I mean, that's my 2 cents. I don't know if you've actually seen any of the borders or not, but or any of the cards yourself.
I will have to take a look though, because
Mhm.
I am a lifelong Magic person.
Yes, you are.
Lifelong. You shut your mouth, Harry. Just because 'cause I'm not good at it does not mean that I can't like Magic.
You're 100%
Fuck.
correct.
Doesn't change how good or bad I am, though. Oh, God.
It's
I
a
just wish
good
I
segue
had
to
Magic.
our next topic.
No, no, I wanna wallow, talk about how bad at Magic I am. Alright, I'm done. Segue.
Segue into how bummed you were when something got almost scrapped. I'm sorry, I'm doing a horrible segue.
Hey, you got this. We're gonna talk about movies now, okay?
There you go.
So we went from politics to law to fucking papers with magic people on them to movies.
Mm-hmm.
Now, not too long ago, we discussed fun sequel ideas, I believe they're called,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
You said something to the effect of Dumb and Dumber 2, but like a
Mm-hmm.
good Dumb and Dumber 2, not a prequel and not like a 30-year afterthought.
Correct.
And I said something to the effect of like RoboCop, but like dealing with like the modern effects of
Yeah.
policing and like how he's kind of become like a notorious figure. Somewhere before that, I did, however, mention that my ideal sequel was a movie that was possibly in production and canceled. That was a movie by Neil Blomkamp called Alien 5. The history for that, the history of that, if anyone hadn't taken the time to listen or hear what I was saying, was in 2014 and 2015, Neil Blomkamp, the director and creator of District 9, um, had commissioned artwork of a possible Alien sequel, or commissioned artwork of what an Alien movie set after Aliens, but ignoring the canon of Alien 3, what that would look like. Some really
Mm.
solid stuff. Hicks is back. He's in his Marine outfit, but he's got a scarred face. Sigourney Weaver in some kind of like uh
Mm-hmm.
xenomorph like outfit. A lot of like corporate um corporate Weyland Yutani bullshit, a lot of like militaristic concept art, in Alien Queen, just run of the mill, like essentially what a James Cameron Aliens 3 would look like in 20 whatever. The movie was scrapped in favor of Ridley Scott making Prometheus 2, Alien Covenant, which for all its faults, I actually really like. But that being said, I will always despise, in the back of my mind, not actually, because I think he's a great filmmaker, Ridley
Mm-hmm.
Scott, just for him wanting to make his prequel series when Neil Blomkamp was right fucking there
Right.
making or wanting to make Aliens. The fucking buildup, Jesus Christ, I should have just said it in the first place. Uh, this movie, this Alien movie, might get made. It's been picked up. So what's happening at the moment is Fox, which has been purchased by whatchamahoosit, still has the Fox TV channel, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Fox TV thingy, whatever that thing is called now, is going to be producing an Alien series,
Oh.
and Neil Blomkamp is also been tapped to possibly film his version of Alien that he wanted to do. The alternate Alien 3 that takes place like a couple decades after Aliens, yada yada, which I'm excited about. Um, and forget all the film asshole bullshit where I talk about the endless sequel and the endless franchise syndrome. No, no, no. I never said anything like that. My lips to God's ears. I love sequels. I love franchises. No. Um, Part of me is excited because when I was younger, I really wanted this to happen because I'm just a bitch for it. I'm interested in seeing it because I do like Neil Blomkamp as a filmmaker. I do love his like factory setting machinery science fiction. Uh, he was going to do a RoboCop movie too, which I was also excited for, but that didn't get lifted off the ground. He is, however, penning with Sharto Copley, the actor of District 9, to make a sequel to District 9, District 10, which has been,
Oh.
Jesus Christ, another 10 years. Holy
Damn.
bejeebers. God, we're fucking old, Harry.
Mm-hmm.
I just barely fucking graduated high school when District 9 came out. Besides the point, I'm interested because I do like Neil Blomkamp. I know that maybe the District 9 allegory is a little problematic because it doesn't quite get the allegory of racism right and all that shit. It's still a very solid science fiction film, well filmed, well made. Um, his other movies are good. I do feel that some of the time he might have strayed from some of his well produced roots with a little too much money. That's just my
Mm-hmm.
opinion. But I'm interested in seeing what he gets the chance to do with Alien if he actually gets to make it. And I'm also excited to see uh, where District 10 will come out. I'm of the mind that it shouldn't be made personally because I think District 9 could stand on its own perfectly fine. District 10, I think its biggest hurdle is having to tell. I think it should approach the same kind of level that Blade Runner tried to approach, where it's like
Okay.
it needs to answer its own artistic question to any question that might have been posed in the previous movie.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So District 9, despite its tease of Christopher Johnson, the titular no, not that's not right. The the mentioned alien character saying he'll come back.
Yeah.
It's a fairly self-contained movie. there's no need for a sequel because, in my opinion, movies that are allegory or allegorical to something in the real world diminish the point of their allegory when they have sequels. The second one, I think, should throw all of the racial allegorical stuff to the wind, or should try focusing on a different aspect of what's going on in this world to further the racial divide
Hmm.
discussion. That's my opinion. I'm sticking to it.
I mean, I'd be
I'm a pick
stoked for
what I
that
want to
shit.
be. Oh fuck yeah!
I didn't even know about the show. Uh, that's something
They've
that
been
I'd be.
wanting to. They've been wanting to make a show for literally like decades. They haven't really ever gotten the chance to until recently, and I don't even know if
Hmm.
that's gonna get lifted off the ground. I just know
Okay.
that they're like, "Oh, hey, this would be a great idea. Let's do this."
Right.
Yeah. But,
Um.
network TV is starting to put more money into television, the same way they did with, Breaking Bad and stuff like Legion,
Mhm.
high concept shows that get, a solid audience and high returns. Anyway, my apologies.
Yeah. Good.
Get
We can talk about something that semi got released. What did you so you
oh,
talked
yeah.
about? Very
Yeah,
minimal
so,
stuff.
as of a couple hours ago, a couple articles have been released that have been discussing a new project over at Marvel for the MCU, uh, being released probably late 2022. The title is called, drumroll, The Mutants.
Yay!
Yeah,
Harry finally
Harry,
gets his X-Men, and
so excited.
I mean,
Yay.
we kind of talked about it before the podcast. We stopped ourselves, but we just couldn't help it.
Yeah,
Like
what? We can't just fucking talk to ourselves without
right.
people fucking.
But like it kind of sucks not to have the X-Men we kind of grew up with, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it
but
could grow into that personally, I
yeah,
think, very
I
well.
I agree. My favorite X-Men has never really had a great um showing, so I'm kind of excited what they can do with their character.
Who's
Uh,
your favorite X-Man? X-person.
Gambit,
Oh my god.
fucking
Harry, you
love Gambit.
silver tongue devil, you. Mm, mm. Sweet on a
He's
creme brulee. Mm, mm, mm,
yeah,
I'm
like
Southern, can't you tell?
his showing in Origins is just not that
No,
great.
no, 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 no.
No, no. Definitely not the Gambit that I grew up watching in the TV, the animated TV show. So, um,
Oh yeah, his eyes weren't black.
exactly. Uh,
I'm I'm always disappointed with that movie. I'm so disappointed.
mhm,
If
mhm.
I could go off on a tangent for one moment,
Go for it.
I hate that they made such an effort to ground certain characters like Gambit. Oh, we have to make them more realistic, or like, and then they do shit like the Blob, and then they do extra shit like, I don't know if you've noticed,
Mm.
but the first 3 X-Men movies didn't have 2 over the top wacky like ability effects. Like there was the bit when Wolverine kind of like swung on the Statue of Liberty
Oh yeah.
uh crown, and he's like gliding down or whatever. But like this is the movie X-Men Origins Wolverine that introduces like really stupid moves. Like there's the Gambit fucking Wolverine fight when he's just slashing fucking this ladder that Gambit is climbing up, and I'm like,
Hmm.
where did this fucking cartoony ass shit enter this like this super ass serious origin story about revenge?
Mhm.
Like, what the fuck? What the fuck is going on here? You noticed that, right? Like,
Yeah.
him, like, gliding on a fucking motorcycle, killing a dude in a chopper, like, all this extra shit, and Gambit is the most over the top character in the cartoons and comics, and they mute his ass.
Yeah. That's just eh. I just was not
Like,
happy about.
I can completely agree, and
Yeah.
I was marginally excited for all of the buzz that they were gonna do with him, because they were gonna get Channing Tatum to play him, and as much
No.
as I don't care for Channing Tatum, they got him because he's a fucking, he's not Creole,
Mhm.
he's Cajun.
Mhm. It's
Like,
true.
he actually, like, could've emulated the Cajun, so, like, that's one of the things that I liked.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um.
I'm
I
excited. I actually wouldn't mind seeing Gambit on the big screen.
Yeah. I think they can do a really good job. I believe Marvel, the Marvel Studios, can do a great job. Like we've seen it time and time again with their movies, and now, I mean, it's the only TV show, but or series, but they're doing such a fucking fantastic job with that I can easily see them making like them bringing in the X-Men so well. You
Oh,
know,
of course.
like
The thing is, like, you know why I mean, because 'cause they're doing the comic art. For anyone who doesn't
yeah.
know, it's a black poster with yellow and red wait, I believe it's yellow font with a red kind of, like, shadow,
Ooh.
and that's meant to kinda emulate when Stan Lee originally called the X-Men the Mutants.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's how the pitch went, because he wanted to create the allegory for the civil rights and people were different, all that,
Mm-hmm.
yada, yada, yada. So he created the X-Men, but they weren't called the X-Men, they were called the Mutants. And I like that it implies that the X-Men as an organization, as a
Mm-hmm.
team, as an Avengers style thing, is something is going to possibly be in need of building up the same way the
Yeah.
Avengers is going to. So, like, a good 10 movies before X-Men happens, and then a fucking another 20 before X-Men versus Avengers happens.
Right. Like looking back now, it's like because I just re saw the original X Men recently, like this past week. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't. The only real X Men you see in the first one is Professor Xavier, right?
Yeah.
Um, Wolverine, obviously, but this is like before he actually even joins, right?
Right, so it's
Um,
just James Howlett Logan.
exactly. Cyclops,
Uh-huh.
Jean Grey, and Storm.
Storm.
That's it.
Ah, eh. Oh, right, you're just mentioning X-Men. Yeah, right,
Yes.
and then Rogue.
Right. But like the
And
like
Bobby.
yes, like those were the only like characters who were X Men in that first one, and then Wolverine doesn't actually like join like actually become an X Men. Like he's just like in that group and he gets the suit and everything, right? But like the only real X Men were basically Cyclops, Jean Grey, and Storm.
Right. I believe, unless I'm wrong, the very first X-Men, I think were, like, Beast, Cyclops, Jean, and I think Iceman. Yeah, I think Bobby
Mm.
Drake.
Yeah, see, like
So
in the original movie, or at least the ones that we grew up with, they introduce him. They introduce a lot of later X Men, but they introduce him as younger kids, not
mhm,
actual like part of the X Men, which I think was
they
great.
I think that yeah, exactly, because they kind of enveloped the sequels kind of,
Mm-hmm.
uh, heroes into the next movie. But, the X-Men that we grew up with, not the cartoon,
Mm-hmm.
uh, the comic, I think from the late '70s, early '80s,
Mm-hmm.
before fucking Youngbloods. God, Rob Liefeld fucking sucks. Was, like, Wolverine, Storm, Cyclops, Jean Grey, and Beast.
Mm.
Occasionally, like Colossus or Nightcrawler, I think.
Okay.
Um, but that's who you saw in those movies.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, the cast, all things said and done, was pretty small,
Mhm.
and I
Mhm.
think I don't know if it's necessarily aged well. It was the first movie that proved that superhero movies could be taken very seriously.
Yes.
Uh, I mean, we talked about this before, but the '90s was just a fucking cavalcade of just over the top, zany, like not trash, but like just run of the mill stuff. And
Yeah.
the early 2000s was the beginning of this era where people could imagine these movies taking off and becoming
Mhm.
commercial hits. They could become something more than just, fucking George Clooney's fucking bat nipple bat card bullshit.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I
But
mean,
I'm
you're
excited.
right.
Go ahead. Go the fuck ahead. I've
No,
been
I'm saying
talking
you're
too much.
right. I was agreeing with you.
Yeah, I agree with you too about your agreement. God, you handsome son of a bear. Kiss me.
Mwah.
We can't get too entangled. It'll ruin the podcast. But I'm excited as you are to
Mm.
really see X-Men. I really hope if they're gonna do any interdimensional bullshit that it's like it's with the villain
Yeah.
and it's not introducing
Like
someone from another story because it, they're in a rough patch. They really are, where it's like, hey, there's nothing inherently wrong with the performances of the people who were in the previous like X franchise from Fox,
right.
but like, do we really want to be associated with that? And then on top of
Mm.
that, if we don't want to be associated with that, do we really want to make um an X-Men IP within the MCU fresh off this purchase? I mean, I think that's not one of the things that they're genuinely worried about, but I think it's something that audiences might be a little tepid about,
Mhm.
and especially since there's a fucking shitload of people out there who think it's gonna be like a copy and paste of all the actors from the old universe into this one, and I don't think that'll work. The only instance where I think that could work is Deadpool 3, which they are going to make, and it's going to have Ryan Reynolds. But
Yeah.
other than that, I really don't see how it works for the MCU for Marvel. They copy and paste from another universe and put it into the other one.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
don't think that works. I think it's fine if you want to take actors like you and I have said before from the Fox universe and
Mhm.
kind of reappropriate them into other parts. Like
Yeah.
if you want maybe not Michael Fassbender. I would never cast him in anything else other than Magneto.
Yeah.
If you want, like Ty Sheridan, the actor who played Cyclops, to play like a
Mm.
young Avenger or fucking Iron Lad or
Mhm.
something like
Mhm.
part where it's like, okay, hey, look, we're not gonna like not cast you just because you were in a Fox movie, but it's like
Right.
you're not gonna be able to be Cyclops. We're sorry, but we
Yeah.
do want to make sure that you have like a solid amount of screen time as someone.
Mhm. Like I
Like I
think
can
they
see
I say like I think they're going to do a good job with God, Quicksilver.
with
Freak.
Pietro.
Yeah. I think they
Pietro.
yeah, exactly. I think they did a good job cuz I mean, obviously they probably did it because of, the the what do you call it? The Easter egg of like, ooh, Quicksilver, but like I think they know he's a great actor, people love him. Like why not bring him into this universe? Maybe not as Quicksilver, but maybe as someone else, like you said,
Kind of,
maybe
yeah, and kind of fuck with you and your expectations while we're at it.
yeah. Like
Because I get the idea that they know not the irony, but they get the joke.
yes.
There wouldn't be that joke if they didn't understand
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
predicament we're in.
Yep. Yeah, I think they I think they are going to do what you're saying. I think they're going to get, like maybe not Michael Fassbender, but like other people. I think a great example. I think we were talking about it not too long ago. Uh, Mystique, forgot
Hmm.
their name,
Hmm.
but there's rumors of them becoming I forgot the character's name, Storm, something Storm, Fantastic
Yes,
Four, Sue
Fantastic
Storm,
Storm.
Sue Storm. Yeah. Forgot forgot their name, the actress, and I forgot, but yeah, like because she was playing, huh?
Jennifer Lawrence.
Yes, Jennifer Lawrence played Mystique in the X Men, but there are rumors of them casting her as Sue Storm in the Fantastic Four that the Marvel Studios is going to be doing. You know, um, and I think that's another example of what they did with Quicksilver. So it's like, I think you're right. I think they're going to do it because there are great actors that were in X Men. I mean, Hugh Jackman. I obviously he's done right. I don't think. Well, maybe as something as a like you said, maybe as a different character, an older, grislier, maybe not Wolverine, but a different character. Like why not? Great actor, right? Like why not? Has experience doing superhero movies. Like maybe as dude, bring him in as a villain.
I wouldn't mind. I would actually love if he played like the antithesis of Wolverine. Like, oh
Mm.
man, we just did like uh fucking whatever superhero, and we just cast Hugh Jackman as like this spineless, like evil villain who like
Mm-hmm.
cackles. Like I love that.
Yeah.
Oh man, if you like The Prestige when they got Hugh Jackman to play two parts, where
Mm-hmm.
he's playing it, and then like this buck-toothed fatter version of himself. Oh god, he's so good.
Yeah. I
Oh
think
fuck
because I mean Marvel sees what they've done with their acting, right? With what they've done with their characters. It's like you can recast them as someone else that can probably do, you know, you can maybe take what they've done with X-Men and, put it in a character that they've written specifically for that actor, Like we
yeah,
need you to be a villain. We're going to write this villain specifically for you. You know what I mean? It's kind of like
right.
it's kind of like Deadpool, like Deadpool is just meant to be Ryan Reynolds, right? That's what everyone says. Like, dude, this was your character. Like no one else can play Deadpool except you. It's like it just like why not create a character in the Marvel universe that is specific for a certain actor, But we'll see. I mean, they have they have another roadmap for what's to come. I'm excited, and I think that would be a great transition if you're okay with moving on to the next topic of WandaVision. Of
Mystic.
yeah, like what they're doing with this series, and the season finale is actually in about a little over an hour from now. Um,
Right.
which I'm super excited about. This series, and I've heard from a lot of people, has exceeded people's expectations.
Oh
This
yeah.
has like been so good. Um I don't know how to describe you know what I mean? Like I'm just like, yeah, this was a good show. Like I ran out of Disney Plus and I bought an extra month because I wanted to see the rest of it. I was just like, yeah, this
The
go for it.
beauty of that is Falcon and Winter Soldier comes out in I think a week.
Oh wow. I did not know that.
Yeah. We can fucking shit on that because it's not gonna be WandaVision.
It's not. But again, I mean, I didn't know what to think of WandaVision when I first saw, when I first heard of it. I was like, I don't know, what can you really do with, you know, Scarlet
Yeah.
Witch and Vision, And then now look what they've done. They've introduced the Scarlet Witch and White Vision. you know, it's
No, no, they've introduced Aryan Vision.
Sorry.
These
There you go.
filmmakers, these bastards. God, they
But
can't just have a vision of color.
uh
They have to put in a white one. God,
mm,
fucking racist do you have to be?
that's true. No, but you know, it's this is something that I wasn't expecting at all. I love what they've done and what they're going to continue to do, and I'm excited for Falcon and Winter Soldier
Shinter,
person.
yeah.
Yeah, I want to know what's to come. You know,
Can I just say
yeah.
well, I've been fucking asking, can I just say shit all the time? Um, can I just say that I'm really happy that despite Agatha being, like, the main villain to Wanda,
Mm-hmm.
that Agatha is not the person who created the hex.
Correct.
I genuinely enjoy the idea that the consequences of this show are on Wanda.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really at the because you see this a lot in these stories where it's like, "Oh, it was my fault. Oh, darn. Oh, gee whiz." And then midway through the movie, you realize that the bad guy tricked everyone into doing it and that
Right.
it was a false flag. I don't know what it is, but Wanda is every plot beat she has
Mm-hmm.
is a real one. Like, oh, the whole Sokovia thing, oh, the whole specifically what happens in Legos in Civil War. Like
Yes.
the mistake she makes is the straw that breaks the camel's back for the Sokovia Accords. And then this, where I think a lot of anticipation was, okay, so Agatha Harkness is going to admit uh, that she's got some kind of plan for Wanda and she built the hex for this reason. And I'm really glad that that wasn't the case, that
Mm-hmm.
the consequences of Wanda's actions rest solely on her, and that it doesn't take away from her own agency, that she created this place out of grief, and that she is doing something rather terrible to these people. She's not
Yes.
doing it intentionally, but
Right.
oh, hold on, let me rephrase that. She did not intentionally create the circumstance that they're in, but she is perpetuating it, or she was perpetuating it to some
Mm-hmm.
degree. I like that. Now, Agatha Harkness might be some secondary character trying to harness this power. As we can
Yeah.
see from this episode, she's concerned with figuring out how this chaos magic is being used and how she's able to do it. We don't know to what end. There could
Mm.
still be a bad guy that Agatha is working for. But again, I like the idea that she might have been framed by the dickhead from Sword
Right.
who altered context of what happened.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
the problem that has arisen is hers and hers alone.
Yes.
And people are trying to that's what I like. She made a genuine mistake, a human mistake, which I think makes her a very multi-layered character, and people are trying to cash in on that mistake. Not the mistake, but the situation. The guy from Shield is trying or the guy from Evil Shield is trying to do his angle. We don't know exactly his angle yet is Agatha Harkness is trying to do something, but it's clear that I'm just being a fucking horse over the head with a dead stick. Um that the actions of Wanda are hers and hers alone. And
Yeah.
I really do enjoy that. And I wish there was more writing. If all of WandaVision was bad, I wish that that would be the one thing that
That stayed.
no, no, if they were to change anything about WandaVision or everything, I wish that would be the one thing that stayed. That
Yeah.
the choices that she made, whether voluntary and involuntary, are still hers and hers alone. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying, "Oh, this it's all her fault, da 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 da," but like agency is one of the main ways that you can empathize with a character. Like you don't empathize necessarily with someone who's just standing still and things happen around them. You empathize with someone because of them walking through the door and dealing with the consequences of what's on the other end.
Yeah.
I think that's important. If if we take away that agency and that consequence, it kind of removes it's like why I enjoy or why I don't enjoy like the chosen one archetype or the chosen one cliche because
Right.
it removes agency from that character. There's no struggle, there's no point to what they do. If if uh if the book says that this person is destined to do this and the entire 900-page book is 800 pages of them just beating off and the last 100 pages of them doing the prophecy, then like where's the fun in that?
Right.
Where's the struggle? Because at the end of
Mm.
it, unless they subvert that story, you know that they're destined to do this and the powers that they have aren't from their own training, their own fall, their own, mistakes. It's all because it's been poorly planned.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about this is that they're human mistakes. It's still kind of like, it's a superhero. This is a superhero story. We can't do too much. But it's like, it's a solid, heartfelt fucking mistake. And not mistake, but like consequence.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a consequence that they don't shy away from. Like,
Mm-hmm.
the best thing I can think of is fucking Nando. Nando V Movies does a great fucking video. He essentially talks about how the second season of the MCU or the second season, the second phase of the MCU is out of order, and he makes the
Mm-hmm.
point of saying that like instead of being the culmination of the second phase, Age of Ultron should be in the middle
Hmm.
because in Iron Man 3, Tony Stark is suffering from post traumatic stress, right?
Right.
Fucking destroys all his suits at the end. He has this life-changing realization. Age of Ultron, fuck, he's in a suit again, and he's fucking around with suits, and he creates essentially a suit of armor around the world that tries to kill everyone, right?
Yes.
Fucking uh Captain America. Captain America. Captain America and his distrust of the fucking government. Like it doesn't make any sense for Shield or what's left of Shield to come back if it helps if it comes to their aid in the third act
Mm.
of Age of Ultron, it makes more sense before Winter Soldier and then Shield falls because
Right.
of that. And then he almost also makes the point of saying that Civil War should be the last movie of Phase 2 because
Mm.
the second phase acts more or less like the third act, the low point of the story. And Age of Ultron doesn't technically fulfill that portion of the act structure.
Hmm.
It's still another it's just Avengers 2. There's nothing that changes. There's no status quo that changes.
Right.
If it's in the middle, it's this big upending point, then your characters, not before Age of Ultron, afterwards, go through these radical life-changing events, and then Civil War, where all of these
Mm.
consequences are. I'm roping it back around to Wanda, where the whole point of what I've been saying is the concept of consequence, where it's like the
Right.
rearranging of the story would adhere to a narrative that builds up to consequence and doesn't shy away from the effects that those consequences create. Fucking Christ, I talk too much and I stutter and I make no sense. Hit me. No, I'd like
Meh.
that too much. No.
No, I think you're making good points. I like. Yeah, you're right. Um, like I didn't really think about Age of Ultron like that, but it's true. Uh,
I recommend like I keep repping his stuff. I like his
right.
stuff. I think he
Right.
he makes solid arguments. All he says is it doesn't make sense for like Iron Man to go through his like self-realization or self-actualization. It doesn't make sense for Captain America to go through his self-actualization and all that shit. And then the end of that like literally 2013 Iron Man 3, 2014 uh, Captain America, and then 2015 Age of Ultron, and it's almost as if the consequences of those movies never mattered.
Mm,
And the argument there being made is if uh, Avengers 2 Age of Ultron happens in the middle of phase 2, then you can actually increase the dramatic consequence.
yeah.
So, yeah. For anyone who's interested, Nando V movies, uh, phase 2, just YouTube that shit. It's very fun. You can disagree with it all you want, or agree with it, whatever. Interesting stuff. Yada yada.
Yada yada.
Yada yada doo doo.
Yeah. Um,
Boo.
I've been meaning to like go segue into this topic. It's a little side topic.
Oh my
But
god. You're not playing for this.
it's just we're discussing again another discussion we had before the podcast. A lot of anniversaries have been popping up. Um, for different
I
things. One that hit me was Happy Gilmore. Uh, I think another one was like we're saying Call of Duty 4, the
uh,
Xbox. Um,
oh
uh,
my god. That's right.
yeah,
The Xbox is fucking 20 years old.
yeah, and so a one that was bringing up that I want to bring up for us. Um, the PS2 is actually 21 years old. I
That is
think today. It came out of
dude, happy
Japan.
birthday. I'm older than the PlayStation 2.
Yeah. And a lot of people were discussing their favorite PS2 games. Um, and I want to
Oh, Harry,
see.
go ahead first.
Okay, so for me, um, my one of my first PS2 games. I think it was my first PS2 game. Grand Theft Auto Vice City. That
Oh,
game.
yeah.
That game was fucking amazing. A lot of shooting in tanks and just killing everything.
Cars for me.
Mm-hmm.
That one ramp that you always like, you just spend hours going off of right next to the club. Ah, man. So good.
Yeah, so that was one of my favorites. I think I had my other two that I loved. I'll bring up Devil May Cry. I don't know if you ever played the original Devil May Cry on the
Oh.
PS2.
I've always heard no, I did not. I always heard Devil May Cry 3 introducing
Mm,
Virgil was, like, the best, but the combo shooter
mm.
games were never my forte.
Like, so I played the original. I played part two, and I've never played part three. But the original, that was one of the first games that I saw, and visually, I was like, "This looks so real." I was like, "Man, dude, this looks like real life." It was obviously, you know, every other game fucking shits on it now, but at that time, man, those graphics were fucking ridiculous, and it was a really good game. I loved it. Like those two, and then this last one, and I played the shit out of this last one. Uh, Resident Evil 4. That one,
Yeah.
that one was fucking. Yeah, I played many of hours on Resident Evil 4, killing zombies. There's this
Man.
there was this let's say format. There's this game type where it's called Time Attack, I believe. I can't believe I forgot the name of it. Basically, you go around, kill as many zombies as possible, and you gain points. And then you can go around. There's certain spots and certain maps that you can like break things, and it gives you more time. All right, so you're on a timer, and you can get more time. And you have to like get as many points as possible. And you can play as different characters. Different characters have different equipment. Some have special abilities. But yeah, like, and then if you get certain S ranks or certain amount of points, you unlock other characters, and there's a lot to it. And I spent so much time fucking playing that game type, dude. But those are like my top three PS2 games. I
Nice.
I guess I can put Final Fantasy X up there because it was a Final Fantasy and I played the shit out of it.
Are you
But
sure you don't like 10 too?
I've never played 10-2. But it
Yeah,
was it
hear
was a
that,
good.
folks? Harry's a Final Fantasy 8 kind of guy.
You son of a bitch.
I
But yeah,
can
like Final
feel him
Fantasy X.
choking me across the distance.
Like I'll say this, Final Fantasy X was a lot of fun. The one thing I played on there, and it was basically the only thing I played on there, was a Blitzball. Think of it as like a game within a game. Uh, yeah, that shit was fun.
Like a movie within a movie.
Exactly. But yeah,
Plans within plans.
I definitely put the other three above Final Fantasy X for myself, though. What about you?
Okay. Well, you already know one of them.
Of course.
So I remember when I first saw uh the one of the game demos for when the PlayStation 2 was released. Like one of those showcase demos,
Oh, right.
and it was for Jack and Daxter.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And while I'm with you that Vice City is a really good game and that I always watched my friends play it because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. Um the first game I ever just marveled at was Jack 2.
Mm.
I believe it came out a year and a half after Jack. It doesn't matter. Um, I know that I said Jack and Daxter, that little tech demo, but I didn't get the chance to play it until after I played Jack 2. I played Jack 2, and it was like this really fun fantasy sci-fi. Like I remember like having more fun to a degree in like a GTA-esque kind of way, like hijacking cars, shooting stuff, like doing whatever I wanted, but just in like a more cartoony way. And I always had fun with that. The Jack fran the that franchise has always been good to me. I can always go back to it and have fun because of the variety of missions, the quirky characters, the art design. Um, but in truth,
Mm-hmm.
I think my top one, I'll have to scrounge for my second one, but my top one is gonna have to be Shadow of the Colossus.
Yeah, I already figured that one out.
Yeah, you know this. For anyone who
Yeah.
doesn't, I fucking remember beating Shadow of the Colossus in, like, one night on hard mode with my friends just dicking around in the the background over MTG, by the way.
Mm.
Um, I had never played a game that I think was so evocative of emotion for me, because whenever I hear Harry talk about Final Fantasy VII, he speaks of it as, like, as an experience. Instead of, like, just playing a game, he speaks of it as a very almost spiritual, like, experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I never really understood that until I played something like Shadow of the Colossus. Like, I'm not talking like I don't really give a shit about the story. The story's fine. It's fun, it's engaging to a degree. Like a kid who makes a deal with the devil, all things said and done. But it was the first game where I really got a sense of game design where for anyone who doesn't know, you have to kill these 16 giant beasts, and that's it. And you're in this giant map with nothing to do except ride your horse to these beasts. And it's this buildup of suspense. And every time you go, it doesn't matter how many times you kill these things, how many times you play, what weapons you have, every time you grab your horse aggro, your sense of your suspense, your sense of anxiety is building up and building up. And that's great game design. You play the first Colossi, you kill it, that's fun. You realize how big it is, and you realize that there are other ones just like it around the other area, just 15 more. And every time, doesn't matter, the gimmick doesn't die. Every 16 times you go to these things, it's just a trip of anxiety, and figuring out how to kill these things is a small puzzle in and of themselves. How they behave, something on their body that you can grab onto, something in the environment that you can use. Eh, it's just so engaging in a way that I never thought I would be able to identify in a game. And that I think is important. Listen,
Mm,
I'm not a big analytical guy. Most of the information I get is from videos or just reading other shit. I don't necessarily have the eye for analytics,
mm,
um, for analysis, I mean. But Shadow of the Colossus was the first time I played a game and I felt aware of what was intended. If you know what I mean.
yes.
Where it's like this game mechanic is doing this to me for this specific reason. And the world that you inhabit is gray, it's harrowing, it's full of without even telling you anything, without even really music, it's sad. And I don't mean in a pathetic way. It's full of sorrow and it's full of somber beauty in just ways that I've never experienced in a game that has a million NPCs and a million different pieces of texture in a ways that modern games just couldn't match in any way, shape, or form.
Mm.
Yeah,
I
fuck
mean,
you, modern games industry, fucking fucker.
yeah, I think that's a definitely if I grew up playing that or actually played it because I've never actually sat down and played all of it too much because I've sat down and watched you play it many of times. I've seen
Oh
you
yeah,
play it and beat it multiple times on the PS2. I've let you dabble on the PS3 as well.
which is pretty good. Yeah.
Mhm. And then
Mm-hmm.
you've obviously played it on the PS4 version uh, that that one time. Uh,
Oh yeah.
it look it's fucking good. It's a good game.
And
But
straight.
so yeah, I love that what that game has done for just games in general. Like there's
Oh yeah.
it's a lot of games that look up to it. And a lot of and it's crazy. This so on our notes I wrote for this topic I said we're old topic. So um speaking of we're old, like there are people, adults now, who played that game as a youngling, who are taking
Right?
that experience into games they're developing now. And I think that's fucking amazing. Um, it basically now, thinking about it now, it's like actual gamers, actual people who grow up playing video games are making current games now. It's no longer adults making games for either adults or for kids. It's people who grew up playing video games are creating the video games that we're playing now, which is fantastic. Like
It
there
is an interesting prospect.
yeah, like there are like I can't think of any on top of my head now of games that I've sat down and played. Oh, I stand corrected. Horizon Zero Dawn. I played that game
Right.
and holy shit. Like I haven't played I played a little bit of Last of Us. I haven't played Last of Us 2. But Horizon Zero Dawn was a fucking magnificent game. Like it came free with my PlayStation 4 bundle. I bought the PlayStation 4 for a different game. Um uh, I'll get to that game in a second. But Horizon Zero Dawn 2 or the first one was so good. Obviously it looked amazing, but just the game overall, the story, the mechanics, and like just everything they did was just so good.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
I it was great, and then obviously the game. The reason why I got the PS4 is Final Fantasy VII remake. I haven't talked too much about that, but that was a great game too. And obviously, a lot of people who worked on it worked on the original Final Fantasy VII, right? But
Mhm.
in the background, a lot of those people who are working on it are also people who grew up playing that game as kids, you know, and
Oh yeah,
remembering like, oh man, like we're gonna be working on Midgar, the one city that we grew up playing, you know. So it's like, yeah, that concept's great. Like I love it, you know. And the only downside to that is that unfortunately those companies are owned by bigger companies who only care about
yeah,
money. And those, from what I know, most of those companies are owned and ran by even older people. So those people don't really understand video games and, stuff. But just going back, a couple steps is the concept of, people who grew up playing video games are now creating the video games we're playing now. And I think
oh yeah,
that's great.
oh yeah. No, completely. It's disappointing that the games industry is more than industry
mm,
now. That the business model has technically always been there, but it's more, I think, of a problem now. Uh, but it always gives me hope that there's always going to be a new generation that has their own problems that they can work through.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
I mean, I do think over monetization is a problem. I do think it's one that's going to keep going. But I do think there are ways that the current next generation of video game developers are going to be able to develop games free of this constraint. I don't think hmm, I don't think video games are dead or
yeah,
are going to become bad or terrible just because the Hollywood aspect of video games
mm,
is doing the Hollywood-esque stuff to the Hollywood-esque, like, brand games that they're making. There are
right,
always going to be indie developers, there are always going to be great games that still even fall within the AAA games industry brand that are still going to be good, that are still going to be designed by people who love video games, and are still going to be designed by good game developers. Not all of them, but a good portion of them, and that's
mm-hmm,
important. That that the games industry, maybe not the industry part less so, but that games still flourish. And just because the industry is kind of putting a sore spot on everything does not mean that the industry is, or does not mean that video games are dead.
yeah,
That's the important part.
mm.
Yeah, fuck you, Bethesda, you money grubbing dicks.
Going back to Bethesda. Fuck you.
Had to rope it around. Yeah, see, that's game design. Full circle, fuckers.
Oh man. All right. Did you have another PS2 game you wanted to bring up?
Ah, God. You know what? Just to spite you, San Andreas.
It was a good game. I think it was too RPG for me. If I wanted to play an RPG game, I'd go play an RPG game.
I was wondering why the fuck my character was getting fat,
Yeah.
and like I didn't even realize that there was a gym
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
all I did was just go to the food place because I was like, "Oh shit, that's so cool. You can eat food." And then my character got fucking fat. I didn't realize how to
Mm-hmm.
not get him fat or, like, what triggered him to get fat, and then, like, I found out, like, a decade fucking later, not decade, that's an exaggeration. I'm sorry, folks. I didn't mean to exaggerate. I found out, like, 5 years later that, like, you can go to a gym, you fucking ride the bike, you burn calories and shit, and they didn't do that for fucking GTA 5.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're just like, or GTA 5 or 4, it's like, "Oh, hey, your character can just get fat or buff or super heroin skinny." And
Mm-hmm.
then they were just like, "Oh, here's a Slavic dude, and in the next game, oh, here are 3 people." and that was it. There none of the RPG elements.
I think what changed in part 4 and 5 is the online. Uh,
True.
that people are just like, fuck the single player. Like, I really never played the single player after San Andreas.
I haven't played the single player of any of them. You know, the only bits of Vice City that I can quote by memory
mm,
are the unskippable cutscene parts at the beginning.
mm,
Tommy
mm,
Vercetti,
yes.
and then the Steven Spielberg guy. I stick my head out of the gutter for 5 freaking minutes and fate shovels shit in my face, and that's a testament how much I give a shit about their fucking stories, but how much I like playing their games. I played those games so fucking much that I remembered the first fucking quotes from the story that I never played.
Mm-hmm. Because you don't, yeah, you don't play those games for the fucking story. You play them just to fuck around and like,
Yeah.
and I remember those lines too. Like I don't remember enough to quote them, but I remember them because when I first got my PS2, and like I said, Vice City was one of my first games, the first
Mhm.
game I owned from the PS2. I didn't have a memory card, so every time I had to play my game, I literally had to start from the beginning every single time.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. So which was I was fine with. Like I would just turn it on and I'd hop into the car and put into V Rock and listen to fucking
Oh,
Anthrax and
Jesus
Slayer and
Christ.
just drive around and do stupid shit, dude. Like it was great. So
Nice. You
yeah.
you know what? Now that I think about it, I'll give a straight answer. It's not a particularly great game, but it's
Mm-hmm.
a game that I played a lot. Um, Star Wars Battlefront.
And you know what's hella funny?
Huh.
That's on my list for you too.
Nice.
Here,
Nice.
I'll send over what I had on my list.
My own list. You
I
fucking
wrote these. I was like, I'm gonna write down my three, and I was like, these are two that I know Mark will probably. And I was gonna put Jack and Dax here, but I was like, I think I didn't write it down because I was like in the middle of talking to you.
no worries. No worries. I can perfectly admit that Battlefront 2 is the superior Battlefront game. Hold
Mm-hmm,
hold the
mm-hmm.
fuck up real quick. I'm talking about 2004 and 2005 Battlefront.
Oh yes, 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 yes. Well, we're talking
None of
about
this
PS2, so.
EA, yeah, EA bullshit. Um, but I think one of my favorite levels is the Renvar level, and the best to anyone who fucking knows, the Renvar harbor level and the Bespin platforms level, where it's like they're as tranquil as they are fun to play.
Mm-hmm,
And they just like even if you couldn't play as like a Jedi or anything, they were still fun, and it was still such a great experience. And I don't know what it is.
mm-hmm.
I'm like a softie for like, well, I kind of wishy-washy, I guess, about that, a little pick and choosy, but I like uh lower visual graphics. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I hear a lot of people talk about how, Half-Life 2 is outdated now compared to Half-Life 1. Um, and all these visual styles matter, but it's like I like old visual styles. I was talking to you earlier about how I think Halo 1 and Halo 2 are like visually beautiful in ways
Mm-hmm,
that I don't I think Halo 3 is kind of transitioning out of, and even though Halo Reach is my favorite of the Halos, it doesn't have that beauty that I wanted from the first and second Halos, where
mm,
they were I don't know how to put it. The visual styles were so tranquil and cozy, and now everything has to be like detailed, and there has to be so many pieces of everything because the engines can fit all of these intricate things, and I don't have a problem with that, but it just I don't know what it is. Every level of Halo, I think, is absolutely gorgeous because it
yeah.
reminds me of this like this short era of first person shooters on PC, and it reminds me of the arguments that were all made that Halo was like proof that PC shooters could be on consoles. Because
Right.
that's what Halo was. It was a game that should have been on the PC and made the first person shooter a more commercially viable option.
Mm.
And to go back and play Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary in the updated version is so jarring because it looks worse. And then on top of that, because the Halo Combat Evolved is a port from Gearbox, I believe, for the Anniversary Edition. The Anniversary downgraded version of Halo Combat Evolved on
Mm.
the Anniversary is still not as good as the original Halo.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. Just a different era of games. I think when they were, it was an expansion of technology in in using like different visual styles and different visual mediums and graphical, constraints were kind of being tossed to the wind.
Mm.
And it still looks awful now. Don't get me wrong. Like
Right.
20 some odd years. But like I said, there's a coziness to it that I like.
Mm.
Something in Battlefront, something in Halo. Um, it manages to make a compelling game, compelling story, and still have the same visual style that it has. Like, I'm not saying like the game is great. I accept the visual styles ironically.
Mm.
Like, I'm not saying I like it for the same reason people fucking love the the room. I genuinely like these graphics in a way that I can't explain.
Mm.
I don't know if it's some like alien or I'm some lizard brain like nostalgia, or if I just feel that the oversaturation of detail in a lot of video games now is doing something that I'm not digging. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, like I think of like obviously my favorite video game is in the original PlayStation. Like I'm thinking of old
Uh-huh.
school PlayStation games, for example, Spyro, Siphon
Yes, I
Filter,
was gonna fucking mention that.
like
Yeah.
those older games. Like obviously, I played the remastered version of Spyro, and they fucking look great. But playing the originals and them being all blocky and stuff, it's like they still have like that. You're right. It might be nostalgia. It
There's
might be, but
almost whimsical beauty to them that
mm-hmm,
that you
mm-hmm,
don't see now.
yeah,
You can make an argument that like Ori and the Wisp or whatever it is, like
mm-hmm,
that's a very beautiful game.
yeah,
Not much, going on. There's some games that still have like artistic flair and whatnot, but it's
mm-hmm,
like I was saying with Shadow of the Colossus. Shadow of the
mm-hmm,
Colossus didn't have fucking moving mouths, didn't have
mm-hmm,
fucking anything. It
yeah,
only looked a little bit better than Halo. Still a gorgeous fucking game. I
yes,
never, even more than Halo, in my opinion, and I'll die on that hill. Shadow of the Colossus is a more beautiful game than Halo in terms of
mm-hmm,
visuals.
mm-hmm. I mean,
Um,
I would second that.
yeah, but it's like you were saying with Spyro. I love the remaster. It's the one remaster that I think is on par
Mm-hmm.
with its predecessor in every
Yes.
single way.
Mm-hmm.
But it's it's still like, you know, watching seeing that previous game. You know what it is? Uh, Playing the Spyro remaster, I got that same cozy feeling in a
Mm-hmm.
way that I didn't think I'd expect. The
Yeah.
colors, the palettes, I don't know what it was. It was almost the exact same feeling.
Because they did such a great job remastering that game. Like they really didn't change anything. They just
Mhm.
basically remade the game with better graphics.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And they even left the cheat codes, which is fantastic. I That's the
Yeah.
one thing I miss from newer games. Cheat codes. I fucking miss it.
Yeah, an era of gaming when game producers didn't take themselves so seriously, I think.
Yeah. Like, it's just like the last time I experienced any type of cheat code was Call of Duty 4. But the only way you can get them is if you collected like intel throughout the game, and for
Right.
every like 5 or 10 you got something, right? That's the last time I experienced any type of cheat code in a video game. But like, it'd be so cool to, like, now the only type of cheat codes you can do are mods, which I'm like, cool, but I miss it.
And that's the thing is that, like, calling a mod a cheat code almost does mods a disservice.
Yeah.
Because it's like there was something innately different about what a cheat code was. It was
Mhm.
like, "Hey, here's a way that the producers encourage you to have fun with this game that we made, that
Mhm.
we kind of intended, didn't necessarily, like, wanna put in the game completely."
Yeah.
Like, you were just talking about Vice City where it's like, a good portion of the fun is coming from getting the car levitation cheat
Mhm.
or getting the weapons cheats.
Mhm.
Um, it's like how the game is played and how it's changed was important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I miss that. Like, there aren't many single player games out there that um kind of give you that, I guess, give you that like opportunity, if I can,
Yeah.
if I can, like, there are so many games out there that are just multiplayer. Like, the main thing is multiplayer, and that's like the
And
majority of the
yeah,
time spent is on multiplayer.
in the stores.
Mhm.
And it's like, as much as here's the thing, I like Call of Duty, but I'm not afraid to say that I feel like Call of Duty is more of a commercial endeavor
Mhm.
with a little bit of fun than it is a game.
Yeah.
Like, I miss the era when games were just games and game developers were not worried about, like, long-term lastability. Like, I understand,
Mhm.
like, back then people were still worried about lastability. You're still paying a lot of money for a game, and you don't want to play a
Mhm.
game that's what 10 hours. But
Right.
the idea of milking every cent is indicative of of a business culture instead of just manufacturing a great game.
Yeah.
That's partly why I like stuff that Arcane made. I know I'm always on the
Mhm.
hump about that, but I like that there's no kill the other person multiplayer. The Deathloop is going to be introducing that feature that I'm bitching and moaning about. I
Yep.
might be interested in it, but like I like when it was just a game. I like
Mhm.
when
Mhm.
it was an attempt to show off your game design in an interesting way. Now it's more of a business. I don't mean
Yeah.
I know we were just talking about how new generations are doing this and that. We're excited, but it doesn't change the fact that one of the problems is still what's going on now
Mhm. True.
with, the over commercialization of video game as a product and not as a form of art, which is what games were at one point.
Yep.
They were art. One of my friends introduced me to Castlevania,
Mhm.
and the game itself is, I think, fucking amazing. Again, like I know it's had a bunch of sequels and remakes and reboots and whatnot, but like there's no, Ubisoft style waypoint finding DLC every month like thing for it now,
Yeah.
which is, I'm glad that it isn't. I'm glad that it's a game that I can go back and play and not worry that like it has 50 million remasters and sequels that are all like modern day business
Mhm.
decisions.
Like
So,
DLCs and microtransactions of
yeah.
skins and all this other shit. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Breaks my heart a little bit, but But again, it's just a problem that the new generation is more than capable of tackling, and it's not going to be the end of gaming, and it's not going to be
No.
the end of gaming as an art form.
Oh no, no, no. Like again, like I was just saying before, like Horizon Zero Dawn. I mean, Final Fantasy VII Remake. Like these are games that don't have multiplayers. They're strictly
Mhm.
single player, and they're fucking beautiful. Last of Us Two, you know, from what I've seen and what people have said, is fucking great. Um, like there are single player games that are strictly single player and are beautiful, and like you said, are art because they purposely aim for that. Like again, like Call of Duty isn't really like in my eyes, like it isn't 100% art because it's more of just it's just you shooting other people and how because that goes into being competitive. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like a competitive game that you can play against someone else and see who's the best. So it's like that gets in the way of how beautiful a game can be. You know, like and it has its it has its pros and cons. And that is an aspect that I love about Call of Duty, but it's also an aspect that, you know, takes me away from the beauty of games and the artwork of when it comes to video games.
Yeah, and like I'm not trying to whitewash a little bit of history. Like Shadow of the Colossus is still business endeavor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, like let's set the record straight. Like Shadow of the Colossus is still uh, one of the things behind it was still the idea of making money.
Mm-hmm.
Um, one of the things behind Naughty Dog, company that I used to really, really love with Crash Bandicoot, was still an endeavor to make money.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it didn't change the fact that there was still this ability to produce something like Second Daxter series, the Crash series, or Spiral. I know Naughty Dog didn't do it, Chaw. Um, and it not be a business model involved in like milking every penny out of people.
Mm-hmm.
Like I get it, like, oh hey, we can't make Spyro 2, which they did, but like we can't make Spyro 2 if this game doesn't sell. Well, like I get that. That's just I accept that. But it
Right.
doesn't change the fact that like you have games now that are just so devoid of loving game design in
Yeah.
favor of commercial viability.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just, like I said, again, dead horse or horse dead stick kind of breaks my heart.
Yeah. I think that's a good spot to end it.
Yeah,
I
on a
enjoyed this
fucking
chat.
gloomy note, huh? Yeah,
On a
whatever.
gloomy note. I mean, again, like we said, it's just part of what's happening with society, but there's also amazing things, coming through the pipeline too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Alrighty, I
Fucking.
did the outro last week. You got this.
Oh, I'm sorry. You mean you're tired of doing it fucking 3 times in total? You little fucker. Okay.
Meh.
No, I'm not mad. No. No. All right, folks. That's going to be the end for this episode of Hitting the Mark with Harry and Mark. If you'd like to get a hold of us, tell us how bad we are, any recommendations, any questions, you can hit us up at capital H, capital T, capital M underscore podcast, HTM underscore podcast. That's Hitting the Mark underscore podcast. You can also watch us on YouTube. I believe that's also Hitting the Mark. And didn't realize there might be a theme here. You can check with us on our email. That one is also going to be hitting the mark 2020 at gmail.com. Again, if you have any questions, if you'd like to shoot us an email, anything, recommendations for format, um, ask about my sign, go right ahead. We love questions. We'd love to tell you how right or wrong you are based on whatever you ask or say, okay? It was fun. We'd love to talk to you again, but you're only going to have to listen to us because that's not how this works. We'll see you next week, folks.
Bye bye.
Auf Wiedersehen, assholes.